Welcome to another episode from our show, Anything Goes. These episodes are all characterized that they are all done and recorded in Ethiopia. I am joined with this fine group that I'm about to introduce, but we are a group of about 20 some people who came, maybe around 12 of us from America and the rest from Egypt. And we are all in the capital of Ethiopia, and we're all coming here to serve under the heading of the Coptic Church. I would like you to welcome with me Andrew Abadir, Ann Abadir, David, Hannah, and Sarah Hannah. Those are brother and sister, but those are cousins, so just in case if you are wondering. So let me start I'll start with David first. Why are you here? Why are you in Addis Ababa? Why did you come, make you come?
That's a good question. Why I'm here specifically, there's a bit of a story behind it. In my last year of undergraduate university education, and I really wanted to make good use of my time. And I love going on mission trips. I've been to Africa before, and I've always wanted to serve during my free time. I always enjoy to do that during my breaks at any time. And I had been really praying for God to open a door for me to do something and to go somewhere. And the Thanksgiving, I was actually at my cousin's house, and I heard that my uncle Nizi and Tanti Men were coming to Ethiopia, and I just felt like that was a gift. I completely fell into my lap. So I talked to them, asked if I could come, and thank God, by His grace, everything was organized, and now I'm here. So God really opened the door for me.
But why were you sort of striving for this? Why did you aspire so much to come to Ethiopia or to any place?
To be honest, I wasn't aspiring particularly to come to Ethiopia. I was just really striving to do something somewhere. In previous breaks, I had always done something in Baltimore City or in Washington, D.C., something to keep myself active in the service at any time. So, but this time I wanted to get away, kind of have a little retreat at the same time as doing mission. So I felt that I had to go somewhere else. And under the guidance of my father in confession and through my prayers, I felt that God wanted me to go somewhere else, not necessarily in my own state. So when this opportunity came to me, I just had to take it.
And you have been in Ethiopia for how many days now?
About 4.
4. And what is the main theme of your service so far? What did you do? Tell me about the last 4 days.
We spent a lot of our time in the orphanages, and each day we've been to a different orphanage. The first day we were with the younger kids. They were about ages from maybe 2 to 4. And it was a bit difficult to communicate with them, especially because they don't speak English. But at the same time, you do share a lot of things with these kids just through a smile or through laughing or just tickling them, whatever. They're very sweet kids, and it's still easy to communicate with them, even though there is a language barrier. And that even became easier as we went to the other 2 orphanages the past 2 days.
Before you get to the second one, these types of kids, the 2 to 4 you said?
Yes.
Those are fatherless, parentless, or?
Those were actually part of a daycare, so they only came for a few hours during the day.
I see.
And then they left with their parents.
Sarah, why don't you pick up the mic? And you also have been going for the same 4 days as all of us. So tell me about the second orphanage that you went the second day.
The second orphanage is called the Love and Care Organization, and it was founded by Father Sidrakos, and he basically is a supplement for their education. So it's when we went, it was about 115 kids, and they do songs, and they just supplement on their education. So they have the report cards, and they get rewarded if they do well, and they have like a health program to better their education and the health. Like when we went, they did food poisoning.
So what did you do, you and your co-servants?
We had basically like just have fun with them. We sang songs, and we had Anne told them a story about the Nativity because we're coming up around Christmas. And also we played with them, we danced with them, just like anything to make them smile, really.
Andrew, what's so You went to Uganda before, and now you are in Ethiopia. Is there any difference, or all African countries are similar?
I think there is a huge difference between Ethiopia and Uganda, and I think with Uganda, I learned more about the fervor of the faith, the passion of it, and then with Ethiopia, I learned a different side. I learned about the absolute reverence, the total devotion and total faith, that where it's right in front of your eyes. It's something that you see at all times. It's something that's no question, no shadow of a doubt in your mind. So yeah, I feel like they're different cultures that have very different things to learn.
Speaking about the reverence of the Ethiopian people, we have noticed that they are so revering of God's presence. The way they worship, the way they bow down, the way they say, "Our Father who art in heaven," the way they sing is so revering, and I guess you all may agree with me that we were all in awe of the way they were worshiping. David, did you notice that? Or I know you came a little after us, but have you had the chance to notice it?
Yes, definitely. The way their humility is taken to an extremely different level than we've ever seen.
Yes.
They really feel God's presence, especially when they're saying something simple as "Our Father." Even entering a church is something that
Yes.
something to us is just we're just walking into a building, but to them they really feel they're walking into God's presence.
And did you notice anything special or strange about them, though?
Yeah, definitely. Even the first day when we got here, we noticed that we noticed the building of the church, and there were a lot of people standing outside, and they were bowing down, and they were doing matanyas, and they were praying. So we asked, like, why aren't they going in the church? And they said to us that the people don't feel worthy enough to even enter the church, and so that was kind of a big shock for us, because we take it so lightly that we enter the church, we talk in the church, it's anything, but
Yeah.
to them it's a very big deal.
Have you seen that, Sarah?
Yeah, definitely. They take like joy in the little things, and how we two extremes kind of, because they won't even go in the church, and we have games, we do everything in the church. Like, church is like our second home. So like you can definitely see the difference.
The thing that we are talking about is almost, in spite of how revering they are and how fearful of God's presence, but there are two major issues that we noticed in the way the Ethiopian worship. One, as Andrew and David mentioned, the majority of them are staying outside the fence of the church, by the stairs of the church, not entering inside the church hall. And in the beginning, in the first 2 days, we were shocked, and we kept asking. And then we were told that this is their tradition. They feel very unworthy. They are feeling very sinful in a way, that they don't deserve to go inside the church. The second issue that we noticed, and I'm not sure if you have been told as well, that the majority of them are not having communion. And the reason is also they feel that the communion should be only for saints, and they are sinners, so there is no way they can approach the altar. And years could pass by, especially from 19, 20 until 40. They consider that, unfortunately, a sinful age, where a lot of those youth and men and women are not approaching the altar only because they feel very, very sinful. David, what do you take from that? I mean, how can we balance that with our own dogma?
You bring up a good point, that it is a major issue, and although we can look at it and think that it is wrong, it is important for us as their brothers and sisters to learn from it as well. So, for example, I know a lot of times in my spiritual life in the past, I may have taken communion without really self-examining myself, or really understanding the sacrament that I'm partaking of, or really grasping the mystery that is communion. And so seeing them take it to a whole new level that I may never take it to, but at least I can see the reverence they have for communion, and at least it'll make me value communion or value entering the church or putting on a tunya so much more than I have before.
Andrew, what's your take?
I mean, I agree with David that it is an extreme, and I don't think that we should take it to that extreme. But it is important for us to, I mean, we take communion now as if it's a drive-through. It's like we can really learn from the way they approach the church, where when we were trying to go into a lot of the orphanages, they wouldn't let us into the church. They wouldn't let us near the church. And it's a certain reverence that we can definitely learn from, especially, I feel, in our churches in the U.S., where now with the crowds of population that we have and the crying babies and the running children all over the place,
Yeah.
it's an important point to take away.
Sarah, tell the audience about the conference that we were helping in.
The conference that we're helping in is a 5-day spiritual conference, and Abuna Dawood is the one who is in charge of it. And it's basically like he is guiding them through the 7 sacraments. It's called 7 to Heaven. So it's showing them how the 7 sacraments apply to their life. And every day we have a different group of people. Like the first day was more of clergy, second day was more of the Sunday school teachers. And I think it's just like trying to show them that the 7 sacraments, how important they are and how like they can use them in their daily lives.
And I know you were part of the registration committee. How many you think were attending each day?
The first day I would say there were about 500, maybe 600. Second day they grew about 700. But then today, from what we heard, there were over 1,000 attending. So what I think happened is that the people who went home the first and second days kind of spread the word around, and it grew because the people really enjoyed the lectures and what was going on and what they were being taught, and I think they really valued that.
So this conference is from, say, 10 to 5 each day for 5 days. Andrew, why do you think, or what is the benefit of a spiritual retreat like this, and where is the sort of the joint venture you can see between the Coptic and the Ethiopian church?
I think that the benefit of this is that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is our sister church. It's Oriental Orthodox, just like us, but throughout the years, it's kind of deviated from the balanced way of doing things.
Yes.
And I feel that the aim of this conference is to kind of just pull the Ethiopian Orthodox Church back towards the 7 sacraments as the pillars of the faith, and then just bringing them back to not such a rigid way of viewing things, but rather towards taking the spirit of the matter rather than the letter.
So this conference was attended mainly by the clergy, deacons, some educators and theologians or theology students, and the whole objective of the conference is to try to modify the teaching and make the Ethiopian brothers and sisters in faith to become more founded in the sacraments, which the Coptic Church felt that, as Andrew said, there is a little bit of almost an off-teaching, but in the same time, David, you put it very nicely, that we should get the benefit of what we see regardless. And the benefit, I think all of you agreed with David, that a lot of us move into things for granted. We take church for granted. We take entering the church for granted. We take taking communion for granted. We take forgiveness for granted. And those people may be the other extreme, where they don't want to take anything. And I think somewhere in the balance of these two levels will actually be the right way. And if you were, I just asked you, so let me pick on David then. If you were to go back, say next week after we finish, what are you taking back?
What am I taking back? If I had to pick one or two things, I would definitely pick the simplicity of the Ethiopians, not in terms of the fact that they suffer a lot, but they still have a great amount of faith. Many populations have that same attitude, but particularly the Ethiopians, from what I've seen, is they take everything as a gift, and they value the little things like no other. For example, today at the conference, a woman walked by me and she saw my cross, this cross I got from Kenya a few years ago. She said she really liked it, and she didn't have one. So I said, and I had a few extra in my room, so I said, come tomorrow and I'll give you my extra one. And she said, oh, I'm not coming tomorrow. So I said, okay, here, take mine, and I have extra in my room, don't worry. And she almost, I really was worried, she almost started crying. She's like, no, don't take your cross off. You can't live without your cross. So I said, for me, obviously, like we were saying, we take things for granted. So I said, no, don't worry, I will be home in 2 hours and I'll have my own cross. So I gave her the cross and I went back and put on another one. But I was thinking the way home, I would never think twice about maybe leaving my cross on my desk at home or not wearing it. But for her, I mean, she really believes that it protects her. So little things like that, I feel like, especially with such a deep and rich tradition that the Oriental churches have, it's important to take note of these things and to really make it valid in your life.
And same question, what are you taking home?
Going to Ethiopia was my first mission trip. This is the first time I've ever been to a third world country. And I think the most important thing I take from Ethiopia is, especially because we spent so much time with the kids, is just how easily you can communicate with people just through a smile. And that was my favorite thing ever, because I was afraid coming of the language barrier, because I knew that, okay, these kids probably don't speak English, so I don't know how I'm going to communicate. I don't know how they're going to react to me. I don't know what to say. But most of them, you just smile at them and they smile back, and we just had so much fun just doing the very simplest things that you didn't even need to talk through. So I think a lot of times, what I'm going to take home is that the smallest thing you can do for someone is show them you're happy and make them happy, and that was the most important thing I learned.
And same question for you, Sarah. What do you take from the Ethiopians from Addis Ababa's visit?
I think I would say, like Anne with the orphanages, I would say that how happy they are from the littlest things, how they take the littlest things that make them the biggest. Like, we gave this little girl a piece of chocolate, and biggest smile I've ever seen in my life. Like, we, as people in America, we just get everything we want and we take things so much for granted. And she had a little chocolate, and she was like, she just got a brand new great car. So it's like, it really puts in perspective how much we take things for granted.
Yeah. I mean, I personally have done only missions in Egypt, so I'm not as privileged like David and Andrew. So I'm kind like you and Sarah. But certainly the Ethiopians are very faithful, very simple-hearted, very loving to the Orthodox Church, very loving. They adore us, and they consider us their icon, almost we are their resource of faith. And they are hanging on us so much to correct their whatever deviation they may have. And we are looking at them as they complete us, they perfect us. We are one together in Christ. We are recording from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. Again, you have seen the group that joined me in this mission, and you will see more of them in other episodes. Until next time, have a great time, and thank you.